Right now, somewhere out in the middle of the ocean, there's a massive cargo vessel just turning off its GPS transponder.
Yeah, just going completely dark.
Exactly. Millions of dollars of sanctioned goods are sitting there in the dark, about to completely vanish into the global economy. And, when you think about what happens next, you probably imagine, I don't know, a military interception.
Right. Or like a group of politicians in tailored suits sitting at a mahogany table,
Yeah.
signing some document with a fancy pen to stop it.
But the reality is entirely different. The only thing standing in the way of that illicit cargo isn't a Navy or a politician. It is an analyst sitting at a desk armed with a very specific, highly rigorous certification.
Yeah, because that signature on the political document is really just the starting line.
Yeah.
I mean, the actual enforcement, the mechanism that actually stops the money and the goods from moving, that relies entirely on this hidden high-stakes industry of professionals,
Right.
they are the ones actually tasked with turning international policy into operational reality.
Which brings us to our mission for this deep dive. Today, we have our hands on basically the ultimate training manual for that invisible army. We are looking at the comprehensive framework for the Certified Global Sanctions Specialist Certification.
It's CGSS.
Right, the CGSS. It's offered by ACAM, which
Yeah.
is the Association of Certified Anti-Money Laundering Specialists. And as we unpack exactly what it takes to get this credential, it becomes very clear that this is not about reading a list of rules and taking some quick multiple-choice quiz.
Oh, definitely not.
We are looking at intense rigor here, highly specific knowledge required to police international finance.
You realize very quickly when looking at this curriculum
Mm.
that mastering sanctions is not, well, it's not a static academic exercise.
No.
It requires navigating a landscape of international finance and risk that shifts daily.
Mm.
I mean, the people pursuing this designation, they're operating on the front lines of global geopolitics.
So let's look at who is actually sitting down to learn this material. Because if you assume this is an entry-level onboarding course for recent graduates, the source material completely shatters that idea.
Yeah, completely.
The target audience here is mid to senior level professionals. We are talking about people already entrenched in sanctions compliance, anti-financial crime, which they abbreviate as AFC, anti-money laundering, legal advisory, and global trade or import-export.
Right. These are individuals who are already overseeing compliance and risk management at a really high level.
They know the basics.
Exactly. They aren't learning the basics of finance. They are learning the advanced mechanics of global restriction.
And the curriculum they have to master to get this CGSS designation, it's built on 4 core online courses. Reading through the syllabus, it feels like a hybrid between an international law degree and, like, an elite detective academy.
That's a great way to put it.
You have the first 2 pillars. There's sanctions frameworks and governance and building a sanctions compliance program.
Which cover the structural and legal architecture, right?
Yeah. Then you have sanctions compliance case studies, which obviously grounds the theory in real-world examples. But the course that immediately caught my attention is the third one, detecting and investigating sanctions evasion techniques.
Oh, yeah. That specific course is the operational heart of the entire program.
Because you have to know how they cheat.
Exactly. Understanding the legal framework is completely useless if you don't understand how people actively bypass it. I mean, sanctions are designed to choke off resources to rogue states, terrorist networks, or organized crime syndicates.
Right.
But those targets do not simply shrug and give up when a new law is passed. They actively innovate.
And the source material lists a few of the ways they do that. It mentions shell companies, manipulating shipping data, using crypto assets, and obscuring beneficial ownership. Wait, let's pause on that last one.
Sure.
Beneficial ownership, for the listener who might not be deep in the banking world, you just mean hiding who actually profits from the company, right? Like setting up a Russian nesting doll of corporations.
That is a perfect way to visualize it, yeah. Let's say a sanctioned oligarch wants to buy a piece of real estate in London.
Okay.
Or move funds through a bank in New York. They cannot just wire the money under their own name.
Because it would trigger an immediate red flag.
Exactly. So they create a company in one jurisdiction,
Right.
which is owned by a trust in another jurisdiction,
Oh, wow.
which is then managed by a proxy director in a third. The beneficial owner, the person who actually reaps the benefits of the asset, is just buried beneath layers of legal paperwork.
Yeah.
The evaders are essentially building a maze.
And the specialist taking this course is learning how to navigate that maze backward.
Yes. They are learning how to look at a seemingly normal corporate structure and spot the invisible anomalies.
Like finding the thread and pulling it.
Right. They learn to track the subtle manipulations in shipping data, like that cargo vessel you mentioned earlier.
The one turning off its transponder.
Yeah, or transferring goods to another ship in the middle of the night to hide the origin of the cargo.
Yeah.
Detecting these evasion techniques is, it's like trying to find a single drop of dyed water in an ocean of legitimate daily transactions.
By looking for the current that pulls it.
Exactly.
That completely changes how you view the job. You aren't just a hall monitor checking boxes. You are actively hunting for sophisticated deception.
Yeah.
And having that specific hunter-level knowledge completely changes a professional's career trajectory. The materials include this great insight from Adnan and Najam. He's an internal auditor and an ACAMS member who earned the CGSS designation.
Right, I saw that.
He noted that getting this credential opened doors to strategic assignments. It positioned him as a highly valuable internal resource for navigating complex issues. He basically transitioned from performing standard audits to confidently contributing to his organization's broader strategic defense against financial crime.
Well, and his experience highlights the real-world value of the curriculum. A certified specialist becomes the essential translator between complex international law and the daily operational reality of a global business.
Yeah.
You become the person who can look at a massive international trade deal and say, wait, this routing through this specific port using this specific insurance structure that matches a known evasion pattern.
But actually, getting to that point, getting to put those 4 letters, CGSS, next to your name, it has a surprisingly high barrier to entry. I'm looking at the application process, and you cannot just hand over a credit card and start watching the training videos.
No, absolutely not.
The vetting process is incredibly strict.
The certification uses a really stringent eligibility credit system. They do not want just anyone sitting for this exam.
Yeah, you have to earn 40 eligibility credits just to be allowed to submit your application.
Just to apply.
Right. And the way you calculate those credits is fascinating. It requires a hybrid background. You get credits for your formal education, whether that is an associate's, a bachelor's, a master's, or a JD or a PhD.
And the degree doesn't even have to be in finance. It just has to be from an accredited university.
Okay, but then you have to stack that with professional experience. Every full year you have worked in anti-financial crime gives you a specific number of credits. You can also add credits if you hold other professional certifications, like the ACAMS certification, or if you have documented hours attending relevant training events.
This specific formula guarantees that candidates have a proven, sustained commitment to the field.
It weeds people out.
Exactly. A purely academic background without any operational experience won't meet the threshold. Similarly, someone who has only done basic data entry without engaging in broader professional training, they won't qualify either.
Right.
The gatekeeping ensures that by the time you sit for the exam, you already possess a deep contextual understanding of the financial system.
I have to ask about the financial investment here, too, because the barrier isn't just educational. The standard package to take the CGSS costs $1,995 for the private sector.
Yeah.
If you want to add the virtual classroom series, which is a 4 to 6 week guided instruction program, that is an extra $595. Plus, you absolutely must maintain an active ACAMS membership to obtain and keep the certification.
Right.
Even though paying for that membership doesn't actually give you any of the 40 eligibility credits you need. So I'm looking at this $2,000 price tag and the crazy math just to get in the door. Is this just an exclusive country club for bankers? Like, is there a functional reason to build a financial wall this high?
I mean, it looks steep from an individual perspective, but you have to view this through the lens of a multinational bank or a global shipping firm.
Okay.
If an institution accidentally processes a transaction for a sanctioned entity or facilitates the movement of illicit goods because their compliance officer missed a red flag, well, the regulatory fines are not measured in the thousands.
Right.
They are routinely measured in the hundreds of millions and sometimes billions of dollars.
Wow. So when you place a $2,000 training fee next to a $1 billion regulatory fine, paying for your lead compliance officer to get certified is basically the cheapest insurance policy on the planet.
Exactly. It is a negligible investment that signals to global regulators that the institution takes compliance incredibly seriously. It proves they are demanding globally recognized, specialized credentials from the staff guarding their gates.
That makes a lot of sense.
And there is another layer to that pricing structure you mentioned that reveals a lot about how this hidden industry operates. You noted the standard price is $1,995 for the private sector.
Yes. But the materials show it is heavily discounted to $1,495 if you work in the public sector. So government employees, law enforcement, regulators.
Right. That discount highlights the vital symbiotic relationship between government enforcement and private financial institutions.
How so?
Well, law enforcement agencies don't process international wire transfers. Private banks do. The government needs the private sector to be highly skilled at spotting evasion on their own networks. Conversely, the private banks need to know exactly what law enforcement and intelligence agencies are looking for.
Right, they have to work together.
Exactly. By subsidizing the cost for the public sector, ACAMS ensures that the government regulator and the private bank auditor are speaking the exact same language and operating from the exact same playbook.
They're essentially training both sides of the team.
Both sides of the shield, yes.
That's brilliant. Okay, so let's walk through the actual gauntlet. You have done the math, you have your 40 credits, your employer paid the fees, and your application is approved. Now you have to take the exam.
The fun part.
Right. And the process they put you through reflects the incredibly high-stakes, highly secure nature of the data these people handle every day.
The testing environment is designed to be as rigorous as the material itself.
Candidates are given a 6-month window to take the exam. You have to physically go to a Pearson VUE testing center, though fortunately they have a global network of over 5,000 locations.
Yeah, they are everywhere.
To prepare, you use their study guide, flashcards, and practice exams. And I found the strategy behind their practice exams really brilliant. The source highlights that there are 2 different types of practice tests. One is a full version with the answers hidden to simulate the pressure of the real thing.
Right.
The other version reveals the answers immediately after you answer.
That immediate reveal version is crucial. It isn't just about memorizing facts. It is about learning the specific logic and the analytical framework the exam demands.
You train your brain.
Yeah, because as the materials explicitly state, none of the practice questions will actually appear on the real exam. You have to understand the why behind the answer, not just the what.
But the part of the exam process that genuinely shocked me was the non-disclosure agreement. The copyright and exam security rules are intensely severe.
Well, they do not mess around.
No. ACAMS warns candidates that sharing exam materials, recording questions, or even discussing the content of the exam with anyone can trigger a massive fallout. They threaten a lawsuit for monetary damages. They threaten court-enforced penalties and criminal charges. They will cancel your test scores. Wait, it gets crazier. They will literally revoke or suspend all of your current ACAMS certifications and memberships.
Everything.
If you talk about the test, they erase you from the professional community. Isn't that a massive overreaction for a multiple-choice exam?
I mean, it sounds extreme until you consider what they are actually testing. On the surface, yes, they are testing your knowledge of sanctions frameworks and evasion techniques. But from a behavioral perspective, that extreme security protocol is a fundamental test of character.
A character test built into the terms and conditions.
Think about the daily reality of a certified global sanctions specialist. These professionals hold the keys to the kingdom.
Right.
They have access to highly sensitive global trade secrets, confidential corporate expansion strategies, and massive amounts of private financial data.
They see everything.
They know exactly where a bank's vulnerabilities are. They are the guardians of institutional integrity. So if a candidate is willing to cheat on an exam or leak proprietary questions to a colleague to give them an unfair advantage, they fundamentally lack the ethical baseline required to do the job.
Oh, wow. Yeah, if you can't be trusted with a test question, you certainly can't be trusted to monitor a billion-dollar international trade deal.
Exactly.
If you leak the test, you are proving that you are an insider threat.
The exam security is literally a simulation of the job's ethical requirements. It reflects the uncompromisable core values of the profession.
Okay, so let's look at what happens after you pass. You survive the character test, you navigate the evasion logic, and you get the certificate. It would be very tempting to just frame it, hang it on your wall, and finally relax.
It would be, but you can't.
Right. Passing the gauntlet is not the finish line, because the global landscape never stops shifting. The specialist can never stop learning.
The CGSS introduces candidates to the reality of the continuous compliance treadmill.
You have to recertify every 3 years just to keep the designation active. You must maintain your active ACAMS membership. You have to earn continuing education credits. And you have to submit a recertification application with ongoing fees.
Yeah.
If you just put the acronym on your resume and stop paying attention to the industry, you lose the credential.
And relying on a static credential in this specific field would be incredibly dangerous.
Because the rules change.
The global landscape is highly volatile. A new geopolitical conflict could break out tomorrow, resulting in an entirely new sanctions regime by Friday.
Wow.
Next month, a new loophole in maritime shipping insurance might be discovered and exploited by a shadow network. The adversaries are constantly updating their tactics, so the analysts must constantly update their defenses.
And the infrastructure they have built to support that continuous learning is massive. This is not just an American certification or a European one.
No, it's totally global.
The exam itself is available in Arabic, English, French, Japanese, simplified Chinese, and traditional Chinese. And if you look at the schedule for the virtual classroom series we discussed earlier, the cohorts are completely decentralized.
Right.
You have sessions scheduled for Eastern Time, but you also have active classrooms running on Hong Kong time, British Summer Time, and Central European Summer Time.
By creating that worldwide multilingual training infrastructure, ACAMS ensures a unified global defense.
They're all on the same page.
Exactly. An anti-money laundering specialist sitting in a bank in Hong Kong, an internal auditor working in a corporate office in Paris, and a compliance officer in New York are all operating on the exact same framework. They share common, standardized language of compliance.
So when a complex red flag goes up in one part of the world, say, a suspicious maritime transfer in the South China Sea, the person receiving the alert in London knows exactly what it means, what the evasion pattern looks like, and how to handle it legally.
Yes, the training removes the friction from global enforcement.
It is the professionalization and standardization of global economic security.
Exactly.
If you are listening to this right now, think about your own career or whatever complex field you are trying to master. The structure of the CGSS proves that learning cannot be a one-time event. You cannot rely on last year's knowledge to solve this year's problems.
You really can't.
It takes a rigorous, ongoing commitment to understand the hidden gears of your industry.
And it requires a willingness to constantly update your knowledge against an environment, or in this case, an adversary that never sleeps.
The CGSS is clearly much more than just a random string of letters to boost a LinkedIn profile. It requires deep technical expertise, impeccable ethical integrity, and a global perspective.
Absolutely.
Whether you work in finance or you are just an insanely curious person who wants to understand how the world actually works, realizing that this massive, invisible infrastructure exists completely changes how you consume information.
It really does change your perspective.
The next time you watch the evening news and you see that politician at the mahogany table signing a new sanctions document, you will know that the real work hasn't even started yet.
Not even close.
The invisible army of specialists is just logging on, checking their frameworks, and watching the transaction data to catch that single drop of dyed water in the ocean.
They're the ones holding the line.
But I want to leave you with one final, slightly provocative thought to mull over. We have just spent this deep dive exploring the highly organized, heavily funded, globally coordinated, and intensely tested effort required just to detect sanctions evasion.
Right.
We've seen the 40 eligibility credits, the incredibly strict NDAs, the intricate evasion courses, and the multilingual global classrooms spanning every time zone. Imagine the level of sophistication, the sheer amount of resources, and the dark innovation happening on the other side.
It's staggering to think about.
Think about the shadow networks actively working every single day to build the nesting dolls, obscure the shipping data, and bypass these exact specialists. If the CGSS is the rigorous, world-class curriculum designed to stop financial crime, what do you think the anti-certification for the evaders looks like?